The Heat took on the Pistons twice over the weekends, coming up with two big wins to help them keep pace in the Eastern Conference standings. But it was Bam Adebayo's clutch three on Sunday that has Heat fans buzzing this morning. What does it all mean? And is it a sign of more to come? Plus, who else stepped up versus the Pistons and the latest injury news on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at alluheat.com. Joining me as always, longtime NBA reporter David Ramil. However you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We'll talk about the latest regarding Tyler Herro's injury, Jimmy Butler's injury, Nikola Jovic's injury, just a bunch of injuries. We're also going to hand out credit cookies for the weekend's wins, but we're recording this on a Monday morning. The Heat beat the Pistons yesterday thanks to Bam Adebayo's three-pointer at the buzzer. They snapped their four-game losing streak with two wins in Detroit over the weekend. They play the 76ers tonight, but David, let's talk about that three-pointer. Before I get your reaction, though, I want to play the radio call by Jason Jackson of Bally Sports, and, of course, he does the radio play-by-play. Just to paint the picture really quick, the Heat blew a 17-point lead to the Pistons in that Sunday game. The Pistons tied it in the fourth quarter at 101. Cade Cunningham misses a three-pointer with 9 seconds left. Heat get the rebound. Spo does not call a timeout, and then this happens.
Rozier has it. Out to Bam for three for the win. It's ball game. Bam Adebayo for the first time in his career. 3 consecutive made threes, and it's a game winner. 2 words for you, baby. Hot. Bam.
What did you think about the shot, David? Everything leading up to the shot? What was your reaction?
Well, like Walt Whitman once said, I contain multitudes, but I'm going to focus on the positive things first. What an incredible shot. Chaotic, so much just going on. Like Cade Cunningham rushing the shot to a certain degree, although I think it was wide open and he's getting a lot more flack than he probably deserves. But taking what was a wide open shot after breaking down the defense against Terry Rozier and then missing that shot, the rebound by Rozier, bringing the ball up court, dribbling into a double team and not knowing what to do with the ball as time is expiring, and then finding Bam trailing from like 29 feet out. Legitimately long distance from Bam Adebayo. Pulls up, nothing but net. What an incredible, beautiful shot. It was amazing. Just a lot of joy to see Bam kind of relish in the moment. A week ago, we were talking about how overworked he looked, how tired he was. Like he was failing in what we've come to expect from him, like simple things and the mid-range jumper, the rebounding, the defense, all those things seem to be had to taken a step back because he had been taking on such a huge workload. And instead, a great weekend for him, culminating in this incredible shot. I was a little disappointed because it got to that point in the first place. As you mentioned, the 17-point lead. Not to say that the Pistons are an easy out. They're a lot better than their record reflects. At this point of the season, they've improved, obviously. But it should never have come down to this point. Without Jimmy Butler, without Nikola Jovic, without Tyler, Kevin Love, etc., I understand it was a challenge already to begin with. But Miami had enough, and they got an incredible game from Duncan Robinson that we'll talk a little bit later. Unfortunately, to let their lead slip away the way it did, just very disappointing. But you know what? A win's a win at this point in the season. It doesn't really matter.
So it's officially credited as a 31-foot jumper. My reaction to it, and like I agree with you. There's sort of a fun way to talk about it, and there's a not so much fun way to talk about it. And I'm choosing to go with the fun way because the Heat had lost 4 games in a row. I know that they blew a 17-point lead against a bad Pistons team, and that it's a Pistons team that has sort of given Miami fits all season long.
Yes.
Ever since the opening week of the season, right? And so, look, I'm fine with Cade Cunningham with a chance to beat the Heat on 2 3-pointers this season, right? Remember the opening night one?
That's right.
This one on Sunday, but look, it's whatever, man. beggars can't be choosers. I don't know how good this Miami Heat team is. I don't care about that right now. I don't care about the larger conversation about are the Miami Heat frauds or not. Like, I'm not interested in talking about that. I'm interested in talking about Bam Adebayo hitting a game-winning jumper, a game-winning three-pointer, a few weeks or a few days after Jimmy Butler missed a game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer. Jimmy Butler is the guy who always takes the three-pointer at the end, and he said, even when he misses, I'm always going to go for the win. And in this case, the game was tied at 101, so you could have taken a two-pointer at the end and still won the game. Another point would have won the game for Miami. But because Eric Spoelstra doesn't call the timeout, and by the way, I love that he didn't call a timeout. My players are better, smarter, we're more prepared than you guys. They're just going to go out there and win it. And I like that. Did Monty Williams, should he have called a timeout? That's a little bit more arguable, but I thought, to your point, Cade got a good shot. They got the rebound. I like when these – let's not encourage coaches to take timeouts at the end of games.
You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to draw an out of bounds play every time. And Rozier streaked up so quickly. That wasn't what killed the clock. With whatever seconds they had, like 10 and counting as the clock expired, Rozier brought up the ball so quickly, which is why Bam was trailing in the first place. He was under the basket on the other end. Yeah. Rozier brings it up, and he's got no choice but to kind of bring it up. And who thought he was going to wind up with the ball in his hands, right?
Credit to Detroit for building a wall. Like an impromptu wall. They did a really good job, I thought, in transition defensively. And Rozier just found the trailing Bam Adebayo. And I'm like, there is no freaking way this guy is going to take this shot. And I'm like, he has to take the shot. I thought Rozier was going to fling up just like an awful jumper.
Yes.
I am so proud of Terry Rozier for just being like, you know what, Bam? You do it. It was the right play. It was the right basketball play, regardless of Bam's history. It was like, I'm bobbling the ball. I've got no rhythm. Like, at least you're stepping into a shot straight away. Like,
I think he had like Cunningham and Jalen Duren on him, right?
Yeah,
it was like
there's no way
double
team
team
off.
Right. It was gonna. I mean, he was gonna get it like with
against the Pistons on a Sunday. I got dinner reservations for my mom's birthday that we're gonna miss, and like all these things. And it's like, and I'm like, and then Bam Adebayo is trailing, and I'm like, David, I swear, when he took the shot, I thought he was gonna make it. It was so in rhythm, and he had made 3-pointers from that spot, not necessarily from 31 feet out, but that straightaway 3-pointer in 2 straight games going into this one. He's now made a 3-pointer in 3 straight games for the first time in his career. I don't know that we're going so far as to say he's the next Brooke Lopez or Karl Anthony Towns, but geez, so. Like, we're ready. Okay, fine, we're ready to do it. But give him a chance. I love it. So the shot goes down. Obviously, everybody reacts. It was an awesome shot. Again, I love the fact that he's the one that makes the 3-pointer at the end, and Jimmy Butler, time after time, is the one that's missing it. And because Jimmy Butler is out with a foot injury, Bam is the one. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if Bam still gets that opportunity, whether or not. I don't know if they call a timeout because Jimmy Butler's in the game. If Jimmy's playing, do you call a timeout and kind of slow things down so that Jimmy can get to his set? I don't know, but I love.
He would have walked the ball. He would have demanded the ball from Rozier. He would have walked it up. And then a shot as the clock is expiring, like a step back kind of fadeaway 3 over Duren. Like that wouldn't have been as good a shot as what manifested yesterday. Sure. And not a knock on Jimmy. Like, that's just the expectation.
And maybe he would have. Maybe he makes it. Who knows? Like, maybe. But I love that Bam had the opportunity and that he got the shot. Spoelstra has been talking about this. Was after the Friday win in Detroit, after Bam had made his second 3-pointer in 2 straight games. He was asked about his Bam's shooting threes, and he said, like, over the summer we talked about it. Bam was working a lot on the corner 3, which is a natural thing. Like, if you're not a 3-point shooter, work on the corner 3, become a PJ Tucker type. Let me just get the closer, easier 3 down. And he said, you know what? That's great that you're working on the corner 3, but I think the one that's going to be more available in our offense is that straightaway 3-pointer. And we've now seen that be open with Bam running those dribble handoffs or the high pick and rolls or whatever. Like, that's the shot that's just going to be naturally open for him because Miami needs guys like Haywood Highsmith and Caleb Martin and Duncan Robinson. Like, those guys occupy the corners. And so Bam can't be occupying those corners, but he can stretch the floor from above the break. And I love that now we're starting to see it. And you and I have always talked about, like, is Spo holding him back? Is Bam a little reluctant to shoot it? Is he not confident enough? And it sounds like whatever it is, Spo is encouraging him to take that straightaway 3-pointer, and Bam is a little bit more comfortable with it now, to the point where he's making them at the end of the game to win a game in the NBA.
It was amazing. The second time in his career that a jumper has been a game winner from him. So that's impressive. And the fact that it was from distance.
Longest shot of his
career.
Yeah.
That it comes from, 3 consecutive games of hitting a 3-pointer. Are we ready to say that this is going to be a regular part of his repertoire? Maybe we'll save that for the next segment.
Like that tease. We'll do it in the next segment, plus a double dose of credit cookies. Let's do it.
Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you've got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has its tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Who doesn't love that? I know what it's like to try to hire somebody. It can be a real challenge. You're sorting through resumes, you're getting references, you're trying to find all these different factoids and whether or not they match up to the criteria that you set. And then sometimes you have to schedule these interviews. People cancel, things happen. It's a real pain. With LinkedIn, you don't have to worry about that. It's not just another job board. They've got a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, and that makes it the best place to hire. If you have access to professionals you can't find anywhere else, LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you've got that many quality candidates, and that's why 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Imagine that, finding the right person for your job in a day or less. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and they might not have time or resources to hire. And that's why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring the right person for their jobs. Post your job for free over at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. No reason to wait. Hit that button. Like the videos on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating if you're listening to the podcast on one of those apps. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. Hey, baseball fans. Mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the best MLB season preview coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. On March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern, be the first to get local insights from the MLB local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Big things happening over at the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel.
Absolutely.
We should have done the 24-hour thing based on Bam's three-point shot.
I don't know that we could
Some
talk
great
about it
game
for a
winners
full
on
day.
Sunday, by the way, between Bam's three-pointer and then the Kyrie
Irving.
Irving impossible left-handed
hook shot.
floater thing. Like,
Yeah.
that was crazy, man. Did you see Luka's reaction to that? Just
No,
like,
I didn't.
He bends down by the stanchion. Both like what's the screaming painting, the famous painting, the Scream.
Yeah.
Basically looks like that.
Edward Munch, I think that's the artist.
You don't have to
The
flex
Scream.
your art knowledge. Jeez, I was glad I just got the title right. You got authors coming.
The screaming thing guy. Yeah.
The screaming thing guy.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
yeah, just unbelievable reactions. I love the reaction by Miami's bench. Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo celebrating as Miami's 2 3-point marksmen. The
It was
win over
amazing.
Detroit. You asked the question whether or not this should be part of Bam's repertoire, and I think the simple answer is absolutely. And I have said this before. I don't care if he makes them. I really
Right.
don't. He has to make them enough. 1 out of every 3. You know, he's made them now 3 out of 3 or whatever it is over the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Like I think he's made all the shots. He hasn't missed one. He needs.
I mean, like
to
Joel
shoot one a game.
Embiid's not a high volume. He's not a high volume or a high percentage shooter. Maybe he's a high volume shooter, but you still respect it when he's out there beyond the perimeter, and he's hit some game winners himself too. So I mean, I think that's the evolution for Bam. Obviously, is that you've got to be able to take them. You'll hit them on occasion, and it's just enough so that defenses have to just even if it just you have to keep your eye on Bam as he's trailing or if he's beyond the perimeter when Duncan's coming off of those pick and rolls and gives it right back to Bam. You've got to be able to do that. And if that split second where a defender has to kind of hedge a little bit or just kind of move in the general direction of where Bam might be at beyond the perimeter, that allows somebody to cut when with Bam's passing ability, with Duncan's ability to get to the rim, et cetera. There are so many different options on offense. It does make things so much easier. And we've been talking about this evolution for years. It's not just a mid-range jumper, but we've been saying for multiple seasons now. We've asked about it. You've asked them about it notoriously, pissing off Eric Spoelstra in the process. That the three-pointer has felt like a natural evolution for Bam for years now. And I really do think, to a point you made earlier, it has been almost, I would say 100% a confidence thing. It's just not something he feels comfortable doing. It wasn't Eric Spoelstra saying, you can't shoot. And I think I saw the point on somewhere on social media that he's not allowing Thomas Bryant, et cetera, to shoot threes, Orlando Robinson to shoot threes, and then telling their second best player, you can't shoot the three. You're not good enough to do so. So I really do think it's been just a point of contention for Bam Adebayo to feel confident and comfortable taking those shots. The fact that he's done it 3 straight games, I think it bodes well. And I'd love to see that continue to grow. Like the 3-point shooting was such a variance and such a story for last year's run in the playoffs. Imagine if somehow Bam Adebayo's 3-point shooting winds up being a difference maker at some point in the next couple of games and then leading into the postseason.
I remember talking with Draymond Green about this the last year that I was covering the Warriors. He basically had decided he's not shooting anymore. 3-pointer, 2-pointer. He wasn't shooting. He was averaging like 2 shots a game for this stretch. It was crazy. And basically people were asking like, yo, what's the deal? Like, you got to shoot.
Right.
Like, you're an NBA player. Like, you got to score a little bit or at least try. And his response was, look, it's not that I don't want to score. It's that I look around the court and I got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and these other guys who I could get the ball to. A contested 3-pointer by Steph is way better than an open 3-pointer by me. And it's an amazing kind of reflection of self-awareness by Draymond, but it's also, it kind of reminds me of what, but Steve Kerr had to ask Draymond. He's like, look, all these things are right, but you have to be respected when you're open. Like, your opponent has to think for a split second that you might take the shot, right? And so you got to find a little bit of a better balance. And so I think there's something similar with Bam where you talk about the comfort in taking that 3. I don't know that he's uncomfortable taking the 3. In fact, I do think that Bam would like to take more 3s. But when he's looking around in the offense and he's got Duncan Robinson screaming off of a pick, or even in the past like Max Strus or Gabe Vincent or Caleb Martin or these guys who are proven 3-point shooters, 2 years ago with PJ Tucker in the corner, Kyle Lowry before he kind of hit a wall offensively this year, and then obviously the cutting that Jimmy Butler provides and Caleb Martin and all these other options. He's probably standing at the top of the arc. He's like, I can either take this 3-pointer that I haven't really had a track record of and maybe I'm not 100% comfortable with, or I could just get the ball to Duncan Robinson off of a dribble handoff, which is going to be a better shot in the flow of our offense because Duncan Robinson is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. And by the way, congrats to Duncan Robinson, fastest player ever to make 1,000 3-pointers as of Sunday. I think that's probably part of it. And for whatever reason, he's gotten more comfortable of, hey, these guys are playing 6, 7, 8 feet off of me in drop coverage. They're not even like getting up on me. I'm wide open. Let me just take this shot. And Miami's offense is back into the bottom 10 in offensive rating, and maybe that's part of it. Is like we gotta loosen up things somewhere, and we can't really take any open shot for granted. So if I'm open, I might as well just take it.
I don't think he would have taken that shot last year. Like, I know he's taken a jumper before to win the game, but I don't think he would have taken it. I think he would have looked it off. I think he would have tried to find somebody, make a pass, force it a little bit, maybe give it even back to Terry to see if he could get a little bit more space. But the fact that it came as the game clock was expiring, and there's still little time to react, it kind of tells me it's woven into his DNA. Not necessarily to be a 3-point shooter, but just to shoot the ball. Like, he can shoot it, and we've seen him do it prolifically as in the mid-range, and it's just the next step for him to be able to take it from the 3-pointer, but he just didn't have time to react. And it's like, you know what? I got the ball in my hand. And it's not like the shot looked bad. Like, you've seen him. He's got the touch. He's got the form. It's a good shot. And so I think he's comfortable taking it, like, physically. Now the mechanics are there. We've seen him take these in practices. Like, it's been part of it. We've seen the grainy footage. I remember having this conversation with you before you even joined the Warriors. It was a summer league play, and Bam's like nailing a 3-pointer. We're like, is this the time? And of course, it wasn't.
Right.
That's what has led to years of discussion. But you know what? I think it's going to be part of his repertoire moving forward.
I like one a game is fine. You mentioned Joel Embiid. He's at like 3.5 per game. He's shooting it at like a 36% clip over the last 4 years. I don't know if he's ever going to even get to that level, but 1 a game, like I said, beggars can't be choosers. Like, if Bam is taking 1 a game, that just means that the opponent has to be prepared for him to at least attempt 1 per game, and that just might make you think for a split second. Maybe not enough to get to the scouting report yet, but we'll see. I like that he's taking them. It's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat. We got 2 Heat wins over the weekend. We're going to be handing out 10 credit cookies for both wins. Maybe it would have been 20 if it wasn't the Pistons, who have 12 wins on the season. You get 10 credit cookies for beating the Pistons twice. A standard allotment for 2 wins over the Pistons. David, who's getting credit cookies?
Well, obviously, Bam Adebayo deserves some. I think he just had a really steady game. He had his hands full with Jalen Duren, but at the same time, I think he was pretty steady over the last 2 games. The fact that he was even there, too, like with so many players bowing out to injury and him going through the rough patch that he did just a week earlier, the fact that he stepped up, I'm giving him 3 cookies. Terry Rozier, I think, also had a couple of good games there, too. It was a little bit better for him on Friday night than it was yesterday, but either way, he winds up with 2 cookies. Caleb Martin, the unsung hero, I think was really solid yesterday. Not as much, but on Friday he was pretty good with his shooting. He gets a cookie, and then maybe this is just a little bit being prisoner of the moment here, but Duncan Robinson was so ridiculously good in the first half, and he makes smart plays, finding just his teammates all over the place. He's become Miami's best playmaker and assist man, and of course he stretches the floor, and he's done such a good job of shooting it. And yesterday he was incredible with a 30-point outing. He gets 4 total cookies over the weekend.
Can't disagree with any of that. Part of Duncan Robinson stepping up with the 30 points was because Tyler Herro remains out. No Jimmy Butler in that game. We talked about that and how that impacted Miami's game plan on Sunday. More injury updates and what it means for the Heat season. Is Tyler Herro even going to play again? We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Heat. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what you're going to get with Stitch Fix. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that are going to work for you. Just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preferences. Order boxes when you want and how you want. No subscription required, and they send 5 just-for-you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. In other words, they send you the clothes and say, here's how you wear them. Keep what works, send back the rest. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. If you don't like the shop, then you save the time and effort, and you still get the outfits that make you look and feel good. If you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Some housekeeping. We've been talking about this for a few weeks now. We're thinking about doing a watch party for a road game at the end of the season, end of the regular season in April. If you're interested in attending a watch party somewhere in South Florida, please let us know in the comments on Instagram, Locked On Heat, on Twitter, Locked On Heat. Email us, lockedonheat@gmail.com. Also, we have not even really begun planning this, so if you have a venue that might be interested in hosting or know somebody that has a venue that might be interested in hosting, a bar, a brewery, or anything like that, a restaurant with a private room or some TVs that could show the game, let us know. Reach out. We'd love to help you out. Maybe you'd love to help us out. All right.
If you got a mansion, anything that would just...
Yeah. If you happen to be Jimmy Butler listening to this and you'd like to have us over at your mansion.
That's right. That's right.
While you're away in some city at the end of the year, we'll take care of it.
Leave the key under the mat. We'll clean up. I promise.
If you have
wink,
pets,
wink.
we'll take care of your lizards or whatever Jimmy Butler has. I don't know.
Yes, that's a good segment right there. Maybe that's better use for the offseason. But if Jimmy Butler were to have a pet, what pet would it be?
We could do pets for each Heat
Oh
player.
my God. I love this idea so much. What kind of animal?
What Heat player would have? We could do this one. Like, which player is more likely to have a cat?
A cat?
Yeah.
Duncan.
Which Heat? Do you think Duncan? I think Duncan's
Duncan,
a dog.
yeah.
Duncan's a junkyard dog.
Oh.
Duncan wants those dogs. Duncan wants the dogs for protection from those haters.
No, I
I
think
feel like
Duncan's
Bam
a
might
cat
be
guy.
a cat guy. I feel like Bam's a cat guy.
I could see that. I could see Bam being a cat guy. And it's not a knock or a judgment in any way. I just think, the idea of being responsible enough and then at the same time just wanting your freedom. Jimmy,
I still think
Jimmy would want
is
something
Bam
more
still a
exotic.
condo living? I don't know.
Yeah,
that could matter because if you have a dog up like on the 25th floor of some Miami Brickell high rise, it's just hard. You got to take the dog down for a walk all
Well,
the time.
doesn't he
Not a
have
lot
like
of
the
space.
apartment right above his mother's? I think
Yeah.
that's still the case. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some actual news here. The Miami Herald reporting over the weekend that Tyler Herro received a platelet-rich plasma injection on Friday. He's going to be reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks. The hope is that they could still work Tyler Herro back into the rotation before the end of the regular season. Herro, of course, has already missed 11 straight games, with mostly due to the right foot problem. At the beginning of that, it was the left knee hyperextension that he had in New Orleans, that he suffered in New Orleans at the end of that game. But it's mostly been the right foot injury, and now he's getting the PRP injection here, or PSP, or whatever they call it. What did you make of the news and the general idea of, hey, we don't even know if this guy's going to play again for us in the regular season?
I mean, I guess just confirming what we had talked about last week too, and getting some clarification. So I guess that's a little bit of a positive, and that I mean, we know that something's taking place. I saw the reaction from a lot of people again, a lot of Heat fans feeling like they didn't even know what was going on with Tyler Hero. Like, didn't he hurt his knee against the New Orleans Pelicans? What's going on with his foot? And then seeing the unfortunate news that he's going to be reevaluated and nobody knows what's going to happen. I think at this point, most people are resigned to not expecting Tyler to be a factor in the playoffs. And maybe it's just building off of what happened last year, but I don't think that they expect him to be a factor. I think that's the sad part
in
is
the
that
playoffs. I mean, what do you expect? I don't know. I don't know what other people expect, but like, I don't hear this and say, oh, this guy's not going to play in the postseason. I just think that the timing of the
no, I think he's
injury-
going to come back. I think he's
Yeah.
going to come back fine. Honestly, I
Yeah.
mean, that's my feeling. I think he's too good a natural scorer for what all the work that he has to put in and everything else, and that's kind of getting overlooked in all these different opinions and loud noise as the Heat lost 4 games straight and without Tyler and missing time and everything else. And of course, yeah, again after last season, the idea is, well, we don't really need Tyler. We can find somebody else to step up in his place, and maybe that's the case. But you'd rather have a guy like Tyler Hero who can score 20 plus points. And I think he's going to be fine. He's just, to me, it feels like he's such a natural scorer that he'll have a little bit of rust and then he'll have some janky fadeaway or a 3-pointer at the buzzer or something like that. And it'll all be fine. And people will go back to appreciate it. It sucks. It really does. I mean, that's my baseline feeling is that it's unfortunate that he's missing this time as the season is going on. And for all the complaints about some inefficiencies and everything else like that, you just want him on the floor. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just point blank. They lost 4 straight games. I don't know that Tyler Hero makes them win all those games, but he helps, right? And when you're dealing with injuries to these other guys that we're about to get to, you're just people complain about like the Patty Mills and Thomas Bryant minutes, like with them on the court together. And I'm like, what else is he supposed to do? Like all these guys are hurt. You got to play somebody. You got to play 5 guys. You got to figure it out. So according to the Miami Herald, this is the line. The pain in his foot has not subsided, and the decision was made to use a PRP injection to help speed up the recovery process. So that's what this is all about. It's basically, you're using the patient's blood, in this case Tyler Hero. You're taking plasma and other science stuff out of that, and you're injecting it back into whatever, and you're basically super speed the recovery process is essentially what is going on here. And if Tyler Hero is in enough pain where he does not feel like he can operate at a high level, then it does make sense to shut him down. It's a tough part of the year. The Miami Heat are obviously trying to climb out of the play-in tournament and all these things. Like, the timing isn't great, but when the situation's lousy, the situation's just going to be lousy. So you pick the least lousy option. And the least lousy option in this case is get as right as you possibly can so that you're there for the playoffs. Because I still think we all expect the Heat to make the playoffs. We just don't know what seed it's going to be or if they're going to have to get out of the play-in tournament to do it. And so I think you have to prepare, if you're the Heat, to make sure that you have a healthy Tyler Hero in the postseason where you didn't have him last season. So that's the injury update there. It's unfortunate that it's taken this kind of a turn, that it went from the knee thing to the foot thing, and that it's been like this. The other part of this, too, is Kevin Love. He's missed 9 straight games with a heel bruise. Still no real update on him other than we know that he didn't travel for this trip. He missed the first 2 games in Detroit. He's going to miss tonight's game in Philadelphia and likely miss Wednesday's game in Cleveland. Can he come back by that in time for the homestand? We'll see. No real updates there. We do need to talk about Nikola Jovic and Jimmy Butler. Nikola Jovic out on Sunday night. Does not sound like it's going to be a long-term thing, but with this team, you really never know. And with Jimmy Butler, he missed Sunday's win with a foot injury after he got stepped on in the Friday game. I hope that's not...
has not been ruled out for Philadelphia's game, so who knows? He might even be available today. At least that was the talk yesterday, is that he might be available against the Sixers. By the time that you're listening to this before the game, you might get an update of some kind. But either way, I would expect him against the Cavaliers on Wednesday, though.
Yeah, and you just don't want anything with that foot or that heel or calf or anything with Jimmy Butler related to that lower body, because it's not like this dude's getting a ton of lift anyway. He's like, this guy's not an above the rim athlete, never really has been. So, yeah, you just hope that this was a precautionary thing. Hey, we never take any team for granted, but the Pistons also only won 12 games all year. So, and we got Philadelphia on the second night of a back-to-back. So if Jimmy Butler can play, having not played on Sunday, it actually could benefit Miami if he's a little bit more fresh. And if you can get a little bit more of a playoff-looking Jimmy in this Monday night game against Philadelphia, a game that the Heat have to have, because if you look at the standings...
ESPN.
It is on ESPN?
Yes, it is. Nationally televised.
Good for them. Go get that win, boys. Miami right now 7th in the East at 37-30. Philadelphia right now 37-30. Miami has won their first 2 games over the Sixers this year, so they're 2-0. They still have 2 games remaining. Obviously, one being Monday night, and they have one later in April, I think, at the end of the year. But if they win this game, then they get the tiebreaker regardless of what happens later in the year. If Miami and Philadelphia are tied by the end of the season, as they are right now, those tiebreakers could be in play. So a lot on the line for the Heat's game against the Sixers in Philadelphia tonight. Of course, we will be back tonight with our reactions from the game immediately following that game. Make sure you are locked in to Locked On Heat. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on your podcast app. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Tune in later tonight.